sponsors are generous. Our platinum sponsors, Gateway Ticketing Systems, SB Value,
and our silver sponsors, Brookfield Properties, Disneyland Entertainment, and SMS Worldwide.
Next, we invite any members of the media to please identify yourself by raising your hand at this time. Thank you.
Translation services for this session are provided by Word. To access translations, log into the IAAPA Connect website. Open the session details and select the AI translation button.
Near the end of today's presentation, tablets will be passed around with an evaluation regarding today's session. Please complete your evaluation and pass the tablet to the person sitting next to you. IAAPA thanks our partners at Katy for providing the technology for today's evaluation.
Now sit back,
relax,
and be inspired by today's presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I got quiet quick. I love it. Welcome to what I would say is the highlight of the week for us. So it's so great to see everyone here. Before I introduce Bob, and let me tell you, this is going to be amazing. I want to remind everybody that there's just no video recording for this session, so please keep that in mind and please respect our presenters. So thank you. For those of you who don't know, my name is Michael Shelton. I'm the COO here at IAAPA, so I want to welcome you here. How's the show going so far for everyone? Everybody, and I hope you're really enjoying yourself. So really happy to see you all here. I'm here to introduce the original creator, curator, and moderator of our Legends panel, which is now in its 23rd year, Mr. Bob Rogers. His bio kind of speaks for itself, but I will tell you, we're very fortunate at IAAPA as our presenters ask for no compensation, and they're very giving of their time and their knowledge, and we're very, very grateful for that. And Bob has been doing that for 23 years for us. He's been bringing us an esteemed panel every year, and we're very grateful for that. But you're about to hear about Bob Rogers. It's pretty amazing. Bob is the founder and chairman of BRC Imagination Arts. One writer describes BRC as, quote, a legendary design and production company known for reliably delivering magic with heart in an award-winning attractions for some of the world's greatest brands, sports franchises, and museums, unquote. BRC has received over 500 international awards for creative excellence. Personally, Bob has been inducted into the IAAPA Hall of Fame. He's a recipient of the TEA's Award for Lifetime Achievement, and a former member of the board of directors of both the Motion Picture Academy, the Oscars, and this is real, and also the board of directors of IAAPA. He has personally been nominated for 2 Oscars and 1 Emmy, and has been awarded the NASA Public Service Medal. His first job in this industry was as a magician in the magic shop in Disneyland. And now Bob is writing a book, makes perfect sense, called Deep Story, creating transformational experiences that make a difference in people's life. It's due out next year. So, may I be the first to welcome Mr. Bob Rogers.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, IAAPA. And thank all of you for spending your precious time with us today. I'm Bob Rogers with BRC Imagination Arts. Welcome to your 2025 Legends panel. Today we're going to talk seriously about the art, craftsmanship, and creative leadership that is required in order to create great experiences. This year, like every year for the last 23 years, the objective of this Legends panel is to capture and share the hard-won creative leadership and storytelling wisdom of our panelists in a way that helps you, the leaders of tomorrow, as you shape the future. From their experience and knowledge, what can they share that will help all of you launch and lead your own revolutionary ideas of the future? This year's theme, Legends of Epic. Sitting before you are 4 extraordinary talents who have just been through an epic experience, the creation of Universal's Epic Universe. It is a stunning achievement with much to learn from and study. And just last night, the TEA, the Themed Entertainment Association, announced that Epic would be receiving an unprecedented 4 separate TEA awards. That's never happened. No single attraction has won more than 3. That record was set by Diagon Alley by guess who? So that's really great. 4 in the same year. Starting from left to right, Eric Parr has over a quarter century of achievements in every area of themed entertainment, from theme parks to museums. He's known for his mischievous approach and for thinking beyond convention. That may explain some of Epic's daring breakthrough departures from old school ways of planning and thinking about theme parks. Jody Keller led the development team, developing new technologies for Epic and integrating them with story, media, and immersive placemaking. How do you integrate technology with storytelling? 2 complete opposites. We're going to find out because we'll ask her. Steve Blum had it made. He had a great job working just 9 to 5 in a career with Lockheed as a mechanical engineer, but then he made a terrible mistake. He shifted to showbiz, taking a job at Disney Imagineering, which quickly led to opportunities to become a part of the creation of Disneyland Paris, and from there to a brilliant career with Universal, from engineering to entertainment. That's a switch. What was that transition like? We're going to find out. Katy Pacitti was their creative lead or world director for the creative team, bringing the pile of Burt to life, filling it with rich details and delightful discoveries. She combines a mixture of sincere, deep care with a dark, wicked sense of humor. She has stories. A few moments ago, it was Jody who looked out at this crowd and said, "Why me? Why am I out there? I'm looking out at this crowd here, and I see all kinds of people who did much more on Epic than I did. This was not just the accomplishments of the 4 of us. This was a total team effort," she said, and it's so true. These 4 have been very, very quick in the pre-interviews that I've done with them to share the credit with thousands of world-class talents who helped to create Universal's Epic Universe. But unfortunately, the 1,000 of them wouldn't fit on stage. So some of them are in the audience today. If you worked on any part of Epic Universe in any capacity, please stand up now and receive our appreciative round of applause. Stand up. And to everyone who worked on Epic, congratulations on 4 TEA awards. Now, immediately following this panel, our 4 legends have agreed to stick around for a while to sign some autographs. And if you didn't bring anything for them to autograph or sign, we might be able to help you out with something very, very special, but we have a very small quantity of them, and while they last. So I'm sorry we won't have enough for everyone. But if you just want to come by and briefly say hello, that's okay too. We'll form a line on the other side next to Katy, and then we'll go that way. And with that introduction, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your 2025 legends. I'm going to start by asking them about what I've identified as, and they haven't heard this phrase before, but the 7 epic breakthroughs of Epic Universe. And they haven't heard this before, but this comes from things that I've seen and or heard from them. These are 7 breaks with conventional wisdom that really work. These are new ideas that I believe are going to be influencing the future, and they all overlap. The first one, epic breakthrough number 1, mastery of scale. One admiring Disney Imagineer, whose name all of you know, but he's not in attendance here today, said about Epic Universe that it holds up at every single level. The scale is spectacular when it's gigantic, in medium shot, in close-up, in extreme close-up, down to the smallest detail. How the hell did you manage that? Who wants to talk about that?
I mean, so I think there's definitely scale differences that you can notice. I think they all come together because of the storytelling demanding that, right? So we all had to make sure that the story was complete and that it was thorough enough to really deliver the guest experience that we all expect. So I think we continue to do that through that, helping share that collaboration across all the disciplines, and that when that creative story connects all the way through, then the other disciplines can help, complete the picture. So for me, it's an ongoing sort of, tale that we, must complete and continue to strive for with our teams.
Bob, we talk often, the term Jeffrey just mentioned is disbelief is a common term, and what that means is you have to meet the guests where they are. You have to meet their expectations. You have to give them every sensory input that they expect in order for them to believe that they are in the place that you are trying to convince them they're in. Part of that is scale, and part of that is detail, and it's that scale and detail applied to every sense.
Let's go on to epic breakthrough number 2. You can come back. These all overlap. Epic breakthrough number 2. The lands are all cul-de-sacs. In a normal Disney castle-centered park, you can go from the back of Tomorrowland to the back of Fantasyland. You can't do that here. Talk about why that's terrific, what you're learning from it. It seems to me that it's a breakthrough.
I think that when we were first starting with all of the blue sky work and feasibility with this park, to do something just a little bit different than wandering around a lagoon, which is what we normally do. And the story, as Eric said, really comes into play with how we come into Celestial Park, and why we've made this our hub is to put the park back in park, to have this jumping off point for these 4 really fantastical lands, and to just sort of encapsulate them. Mark Woodbury at the beginning challenged us to what I would just refer to as the diagonization of each of the lands, so that when you're there, you are there and nowhere else. And so you just get to experience this really rich storytelling and interactive play and rides just in that world. And so it was just important to keep it all encapsulated. And we went back and forth quite a bit about whether or not it would work operationally with our park partners, and everybody just sort of said, we'll make it work. And I think we've done that.
Yeah, I think I would add that we recognize that problem as well. We did struggle when it was in and out through the portal. And so if you do know Epic very well, you know that there are these relief valves that are actually around the portals to allow that flow to occur still. So we were very conscious of that idea of being in cul-de-sac.
Very good. I'm going to go to epic breakthrough number 3. The portals. Normally in a traditional theme park, the portals between lands are gradual and they're blended effects. Disney goes to a lot of trouble to make sure that they're gentle. You decided the opposite direction. You went to a harsh effect through the portals. I think that's marvelous. You walk through the portal and you are totally transported from one environment to a completely and totally different environment, sharp, right now. And talk about that. What made you think of that? And I'll bet you're pleased with it. I think it's great.
No, I think we think it's fantastic as well. I think there's a lot of different reasons why it works, but I think I'll start from the Celestial Park being the parking park, making sure that that was an oasis, right? And we wanted to make sure that that was okay to walk in no matter where or which land you came from. And so the preserving of that green space was going to help us really establish a harder line between the very highly thematic, land and back into Celestial Park. So that tool, after we've sort of discovered it, it was a great idea for us to make that transition pretty quick and not really exercise too much time in the transition. So I think it became a great tool, and it also became even more of a tool once Dale Mason came up with the story of Celestial Park. That was really a great find, and then it also really matched up with the brand very well. So it all kind of came together once the story really landed.
And I would just say that the portals are actually the transition, right? Because you don't go straight into the land. There's a little bit of a throat, and then a reveal of the actual world that you were entering.
It creates a stunning effect. It's great. Number 4, epic breakthrough number 4, putting park back into the theme park. I've heard that phrase over and over again. It's certainly true. Talk about the tangible result, some tangible aspects of actually working with that. What does that actually mean?
I would like to speak to that one for just a moment, just because I think it's, if you ever go and you sit and you watch people in Celestial, people will sit and actually relax and just soak things in. And when you think about going to a theme park, that's not the first thing you think about. I'm not going to the theme park to sit and relax, but it's just visually and sensory is so stunning that people are actually making their day a little different by bringing that park into that place. And I think there was that intention to create a new way of visiting and experiencing our parks.
And also, as a guest, and enjoying it with my family and watching others, you see that happen to a great extent in many of the lands. There are people who are just whiling away their time in Paris. There are people who are just enjoying time sitting and having a drink at the Burning Blade and not rushing from e-ticket attraction to e-ticket attraction. They're enjoying the space that has been provided for them, and that's a new thing.
Yeah, the term park and park came from Mark. Mark Woodbury was the one who really challenged us to hit that goal and to make that a part of our effort when it came to the central part of the venue, so that we really were coming to an oasis, really allowing us to cleanse our palate, so to speak, when you go from one land to the next. So it's really a great tool in that aspect.
Katy, please do you use the phrase, the land itself is the attraction. You mentioned that Burke has no ride in a box. It's the only one that doesn't. But instead, it was the land that became the attraction.
Yeah.
And boy, does it work. Talk about that a little bit.
Because, as you said, Dragons is the only land without a ride in a box. So I just challenged the team to we view the land as an attraction unto itself, and we wanted to make sure that Burke was an active village, a lived-in village, a real place. And so we were able to, spread a lot of the show out through the land. It's why you see a lot of dragons in our dragon land, as our consumer insights person said. If you're going to build a land about dragons, you better have some dragons. So we took her seriously, and I used that as anytime somebody wanted to cut something, it was like, consumer insights said. So we got to go with that. But I think it was really important because a lot of times with people who come to the parks, it is the big dark rides they're the sexy things. They're the things that get all the attention. It's all anybody talks about. So we just wanted to give another kind of offering, which was, as I said, a village that is actually lived in, active. It's why our streetmosphere, which we call Burgmosphere, was also so important to us. It's like, let's have Vikings running around. And our entertainment team has done an excellent job, just all over the park with it. But Rough Nut and Tough Nut are my two favorite knuckleheads. So it's just been, I think the team just did a really successful job of bringing that to life.
And Steve, you talked about how this kind of changes the business equation, how it's no longer about mega attractions. It's about it's no longer about running from one to another. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, so from a business perspective, the way that budgets are traditionally set is about the draw and the capacity delivered, usually in those big box attractions. And the small interstitial things, they're hard to assign value to. But with the introduction of a lot of streetmosphere and entertainment offerings in Epic and relatively small capacity things like the dragon encounters that you have in How to Train Your Dragon, we're coming to realize that those have value for our guests and they are spending time there. And once that clicks in the finance side of the company, then there'll be investment assigned to it so we can do more of those things. So I think it's changing our mindset and changing the way that we model the return on investment that will allow us to deliver more of this kind of offering. Which I think, as taking my Universal hat off and just as a guest, it really creates a much richer experience with much more diversity of things to do.
Jody, you said something that I thought was a really great quote. You said everything doesn't have to be a 10. Everything doesn't need an explosion. Explain that a little bit.
That was my quote.
Yeah.
That was her quote. I'm going to go with
But we've all stolen it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
When we're doing the big dark rides, everything is just like, what's going to blow up? Let's do this. And everything is in peril, right? And so, it's like, it's my first day on the job, and something's going to go terribly wrong. So, but not everything needs to be at that level. And I think when you're doing these really rich, big worlds, you have to have the different levels. And when I was speaking with Bob, I told the story because I was also the producer of Diagon, and doing the window magic for the first time was really, really important. And going through everything with Mark Woodbury, and he's just like, why don't you have anything that's exploding? And I'm like, because you and Mike Hightower took away the gas. You said I couldn't do anything. I had a fire gag, and you took it away from me. So now everything is... But not everything needs to be at that level. Our two most successful wand magic pieces in Diagon are when you turn on the lamps at the light shop, and you make the umbrella rain. And I think the reason why they're so successful is because all the people around you can enjoy it at the same time. And so then you have this communal enjoyment of a single gag, which I think is also just very important. So just not everything needs to, you need the levels.
Yeah. And you're creating new tents.
Yeah, there you go. Nice, Jody. Yeah, I like that.
I think 9s are okay too.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to the epic breakthroughs in a moment, but I want to just take a moment and say, how are we doing so far? Is this panel any good? You like it? Well, we cannot do this panel without your enthusiastic support and your generous permission. We do these because you tell us it's okay to do these, and it's a good thing. So if you want us to do one kind of like this next year, what we need to do is give really, really high ratings on the digital tablets that are going out to Now, I think for giving their valuable time and wisdom, I'm thinking each of these legends deserve a 10. Don't you? Well, the problem is that the tablets the maximum score is 5, so you're going to have to vote twice. On the other hand, if you're not enjoying the panel, you don't need to do anything, just pass the tablet to the next person. Okay, let's go. Epic breakthrough number 5. Some kind of mysterious partnership with value engineering. It has been said that value engineering is a process too often performed in your absence, in which people who are not engineers remove all value from your project. The first thing about Epic that strikes many of us is that they have totally escaped the usual knives, ravages, and just mayhem that the value of the value engineering process usually brings. The caring, loving details are everywhere. How the hell did you get away with this? Please share the secret with us. We all need this. Oh, he's covering the microphone.
It was painful.
Okay, this is
I don't want to dominate, but it is a battle, right? Sometimes, and we are constrained by budget, and so sometimes you have to lie, cheat, barter, lie, just to get things.
Sometimes she means every day.
Yeah. You know, we all producers and good show managers will always squirrel away money somewhere. I have money squirreled away. And so it's, one, we have good designers, and so we can certainly achieve a lot for the budget because they're just good at what they do. And we have good partnerships with vendors, and so there's a little bit of working with them doing pre-construction stuff so that you can get the best means and methods. And just a lot of it is, you know, we had a lot of dragons, and I was getting beat up in some executive meetings of, you need to cut your budget, you need to, okay, you're spending this much, it's a little too much, get it down. So 2 meetings in a row is just like fine, and so I just reallocated things so that my animated figure budget went down, and they weren't looking at any of the other allocations. And so I went in with like, that was half the cost, and they're like, see, was that so hard? No, it wasn't hard at all. So, you know, but again, it is a team effort, and you do, and sometimes you have to, like I said, I have money squirreled away in manhole covers because nobody is looking at how much you're spending on manhole covers. So it's like
major clue. Everybody knows we need manhole covers. That's great. The next couple of breakthroughs are not new, but they're advances in which Universal has been a leader for multiple projects, and here once again with Epic have stretched the envelope another step further. So Epic breakthrough number 6, new levels of excellence in merging giant-scale media with sets, props, figures, and motions. Let's start with Jody.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, the beautiful thing is that technology and media today really, they put you in places that you don't even realize it's media anymore. It's my media team. Congratulations. And so when you are able to now, build this world of physical to digital and use all these different mediums to help blur the lines in that space, we can do that today. That is now, we are in an age and a time where we can actually do that. So I think that was a huge part of designing. I think the Monsters attraction is a great example of that. I mean, there are moments where you are going from an animatronic, and the animatronic is jumping into media and then back to a physical space, and that is, we are at a time where you can just break that disbelief now. You're not always sure. I think the ministry equally has moments where you're just like, I don't know what is real and what is not.
Yeah, the ministry is really where we push the envelope for sure. We built upon the learnings of Spider-Man and understanding how to open up worlds with these media, virtual reality spaces. But I would say that Potter was a big challenge for us. The scale of the vehicle really drove a lot of the scale of the media and how we really wanted to gain a feeling of reality. So we kept pushing that. And really goes back to what Katy was talking about earlier when it comes to teams, and then teams really being innovative at that moment to really show up at those times where we didn't even know what the hell it was going to do or how it was going to work. And soon enough, the team shows up with a few possibilities that we put in front of Steve, and then Steve goes, "Go back again," or something. This is what we do.
But this builds on a really long history at Universal, beginning with Back to the Future, and then Terminator 2, where the barrier between what was virtually presented in media, what was live action, what was physical mechanized equipment was broken. And then that was enhanced in Spider-Man when we did it from a moving platform, and then the technology served us better and better, with the ability to do what you guys do in the craft, which is to very carefully match the motion, the perspective, the illumination level, the color palette, so that it is indiscernible. In fact, so many people who've gone through industry have questioned me, was that an animated figure? Was that a live actor? Was that somehow in the media?
Yeah, I didn't know one figure was a figure at one point in
I
time
know.
myself. I thought it was media. I was like, oh, wait.
I knew the answer and I still questioned it.
Very good. Let's go to epic breakthrough number 7, cross-silo integration. Michael mentioned that my first job in this industry was as a magician in the magic shop at Disneyland. At the time, which was 19-something or other, that was very unusual to have an entertainment performer also qualified as a shop clerk. But that was my job. I would demonstrate magic. I had to be an entertainer. And then while they were still amazed and dazed, drag them over to the cash register and do the business part. But that kind of integration of combination, it really screws up the silos of authority, doesn't it? It really messes up the traditional metrics by which we evaluate the performance of a real retail sales, because it messes up your sales per square foot because your clerks are doing something besides closing, So anyway, how did you've taken with Ollivander's Wand Shop and other things, you've taken little steps forward. You put story decorations into retail spaces, Cosme Acker's Wand Shop, and then one of my little favorite things, go to Toothless Treasures and buy a dragon still in the egg and see what happens. It's kind of an impossible thing, but you've done it. Talk about breaking down those barriers. What's the philosophy that's allowing you to do that?
That's culturally part of this. It makes the HR people crazy because we have to write these job descriptions and put boxes around them. But I don't know where the best technical solution is coming from. It might come from engineering, but it just as likely comes from Eric's group. And that's always been the way. For the 30 years I've been at Universal, it's always been that way. The folks who they bring their best game to the table, and whatever they can, they do. So I think that extends into the products that we deliver, where we kind of refuse to stay in those boxes that the HR group wants to stay in. That's my side of it.
Yeah, no, I'm going to second that. I mean, I think, an idea can come from anybody. And if you don't allow everybody to have an opinion in a moment, or be able to have the ability to bring an idea to the table, you can't create things like what was created at Epic Universe. So, I mean, we had, technical people giving creative input, and we had merchandise people giving, tech. Everybody has ideas. So it really, I think we took a lot of risks on Epic, but they really paid off. We gave voices, people louder voices in those moments, and everybody really leaned into each other with those moments of how do you take it one step further. I mean, seeing the panel earlier today, and there was representation from operations and foods and media and entertainment, and the reality is they all came together as one vision, and that's what made it stand out and work so much more.
Yeah, I think we have a core belief in the clasher cultures. We think the value of that really makes us smarter and just the product so much more rich. When we actually bring folks from so many different backgrounds and different trainings and into the same space and allow them to really have some pretty difficult conversations. Don't get me wrong, it's not always fun to walk into that room, but the magic that comes out is pretty amazing. And when you find out the power within that, we just want to keep harnessing it. So you'll see that from our HR business partners to actually reach out and say, hey, this is one of the big key values. We love our people to swim, not in one lane, but you can grab as many lanes as you want.
I hope you all frequently it's really exciting and it's thrilling, but sometimes it's conflict. But it's conflict with a purpose. The purpose is to make us better than we were before.
I hope you all noticed that this is a panel about creative leadership, and two of these people are engineers. They're sitting here because they are great creative leaders, in addition to having started with the handicap of engineering. So, epic breakthrough number 8. Now wait a minute, we said there were 7. So I'm going to ask you, what did I miss? What's an epic breakthrough that I should have mentioned, I should have identified, that you think to yourself, wow, I'll bet he's going to mention that, but he didn't.
Oh, the toothless meet and greet. I think that bringing the guest that close to a huge animated figure and, dealing with this gentleman for a few years on getting that guy up to the space where he didn't have a ride envelope, I think was really great. And I think everything that Jody's team did in bringing the night lights to life was really, it just for me personally, just makes Burke all that more special.
Yeah.
Right. But you can also see it throughout all the lands. It's just all these little touches of things that we didn't do in the past, and just being able to push that envelope a little bit to give a better guest experience.
I'm going to tell a very silly story, but one of my favorite things to tell people is to go into the bathroom at Nintendo, because it's just the smell they pump in there. You're like, there's a smell they pump into certain places, and you're like, did not expect it. Gotta go check that out. Yeah. It's like this, so there's little touches, the personalization moments that are happening all throughout. I think those are just as much of a breakthrough.
Yeah, and I guess I'm going to nerd out on the master plan. I'm an architect, first grade, and to me this plan is so unique for theme parks. It was actually a little moment of angst about whether or not it was going to work. So it really did pay off. It was a lot of different versions of it that we spun around that piece of land, and we really landed in a great place with a lot of feedback. Bringing all those lines together to really create something unique. So to me, it's something that's not always understood, but it's a pretty significant discovery.
Steve, you said something. You made an interesting comparison between the Triceratops that you had done for Highlands and Toothless. Would you remind me of what you said? I think you said something.
So a very long time ago, when we were opening Island of Adventure, we did an attraction called Triceratops Encounter, which was intended to be a live Triceratops, indiscernible as not being alive. And we had all kinds of technology. We had dilated pupils and a prehensile tongue and warm breath, and we urinated in the paddock, and we had subcutaneous muscles, and you could touch it. It didn't survive very long because it was in Jurassic Park, and no mayhem happened. It was just a visit with the Triceratops. And then fast forward to Toothless, which is, in the grand scheme of things, a similar attempt, but the right story at the right time for the right audience. And it's one of the most popular things we've ever done. Triceratops also was a phenomenal technological achievement at the time, and that mattered not at all, because it's 100% about whether you're telling a story that's compelling to the audience.
Very good. I'd like to turn now to story, and the hard question that all of us face all the time in its early stages when it is brand new. how do you tell a promising story idea from a lame one?
Passion. It's the passion that comes out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and I'm gonna.
This is the engineer talking about passion.
Yeah, it's the passion. Like, you know, when a good idea comes in front of you, the room lights up. It's not just coming from the person who's pitching it. It's the energy around you that can bring that.
Yeah, it's the inherent belief. That's really like key. When you see someone else really spark and have a clear understanding and belief, like true belief that brings you along. And as soon as you hear that story, you believe it too, but then it's over. It's almost like fire. It just becomes like this inflamed thing that everybody starts to understand and believe together. So for me, that's like one of the true tips.
It's also just throwing a lot of spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, you gotta just, we have a lot of writers who just like diarrhea of ideas and just like they can throw things out. It's pretty impressive, actually. Not you, Gary.
But long before the guests get excited about the attraction, our teams get excited. And they hear the story, they understand what we're trying to do, and there's this general, I want to do that, and I want to be exposed to that. So you can kind of tell pretty early on when we hit on the right thing.
But to be fair, our engineering partners are actually very good partners when it comes to, hey, I have this idea, and they can add things onto it as well, and it just becomes this big snowball thing of everybody, of the collaboration and everything, which is actually quite fun.
What is authenticity in a theme park? Whether the attraction you're doing is based on a deeply revered and well-known IP or an all-new fantasy, what is authenticity in a theme park? And if it's important, why?
I think, well, it's belief in the story, because in between Diagon and Burke, I did Volcano Bay, which is our own, which is IP-less, it's our own IP. But if somebody has a vision that everybody can gather around and enhance and take a little bit of ownership of and add to and create, it just becomes a belief system in your particular project. Like on Diagon, everybody we were all wizards. Burke, we were all Vikings. And Volcano Bay, we were all Waturi. And we had a great leader in Dale Mason on Volcano Bay who basically built the park in SketchUp, and we built it. And so we were authentic to his story and his mindset and his vision. I think that we were authentic to Diagon and Burke, because when you're taking a beloved IP, the guests are going to hold you accountable. They'll keep you honest. And so you have to deliver exactly what they want to walk in the same places that Hiccup has walked. They want to walk in the same places that Hermione has walked. And so keeping that authentic, that look, that feel, that experience is very important. And I think our teams understand that, and they really embrace it and really deliver.
Yeah, authenticity also goes with our own staff. Our staff needs to be authentic themselves so that we can get the best of them and the truth of what they believe in, so that when they're putting down these stories and trying to really understand how they're authentic to an IP, what that value means, they're able to find others that understand that. And it's a truth that they start to speak. And then that becomes the belief. And again, it gets right back into that concept that really can grow and span. Once it's truly authentic, it has that elasticity and it can grow and expand based upon how we want to throw all these crazy ideas at it, right? We want to put you on a kuka, we want to ride you on a roller coaster. All of that stuff will work if that idea has that elasticity of belief.
It's hard to believe that there are actually some people in the world who have no idea who or what Harry Potter is. And there are other people, harder to believe, who know more about that franchise than J.K. Rowling. And you've got to police both ends of that spectrum and everybody at every level in between. How the hell do you do that?
Well, I think the most important is you have to initially design for everybody. Like I'll use a lot of the interactives as a great example. If you're going to go up to a window and do wand magic, you don't have to know the story behind it, but it helps if you do. But you don't have to. You need to have the exact same experience to get the exact same feedback or emotion out of it as somebody who has spent their whole life following, the Harry Potter stories and the Wizarding World stories. So it's about designing for everybody. And when you say everybody, it's every age, it's every culture. You want to be able to make sure that what you're doing, if you have a complete unawareness of what's happening around you, that you are still immersed, you are still excited, you are still building emotion, you are building emotion in you, so you have to design for everybody.
I'll stick with Jody for this next one. What have theme parks and electronic games learned from each other? And what have our audiences learned from electronic games that influence their expectations of theme parks? And what, pray tell, is non-transferable?
Wow, it's a really good one. Gaming is becoming such a big part of society and the world and everything we do. I think that what gaming has given theme parks is true personalization. Everybody, if you're in that moment, you're able to be in that moment and have cause and effect. I think cause and effect is something that inspires people and excites people. I think there's still a lot of learning to go in that space to be able to create an environment where a gaming company now has to physically make that a part of something. There's a lot of learning between both of these worlds, and it's been incredible to see our attractions like our Mario Kart attractions where you can actually, you are playing that game and having that environment physically around you and engaging with you is incredible. I think there's definitely a lot of interest in the gaming world that can continue to build into a physical world. I think it's something that, the Mario Kart attraction has really given the world a different purview.
Yeah, I think we're learning on both sides, right? I mean, we learn from the games, and I think the games are learning from us. And, I wish I played all these games. I have to watch my kids play all that stuff. And then when I watch them, I'm inspired. I'm like, wow, I didn't think I could do that. And I just take my notes, and then I go take that, and boy, that's the next new ride, right there. But anyway, I think it's just another place where we're blending the worlds together, and we definitely are sharing different ideas in real time.
Definitely, idea-wise, technology-wise, it's very much a work in progress. But I see some parallels. One of the big challenges that Eric and company faces is taking somebody who's used to producing feature films and having them understand how to tell their story in a 3 or 4 minute ride. And I think we have the same problem. Gamers spend hours engaged with the fiction that they immerse themselves in, and in a ride like Mario Kart, we have a few minutes to try and meet that same promise. And we have to Jody's comments earlier, be interesting to folks who are non-gamers at the same time. So I think we've learned a lot and maybe made a couple of mistakes, but there's more to come in that arena. But for me, there's a lot of tech that has come out of that world that really benefits us, and we're every day learning how to put it in play.
When you are adapting an IP for an attraction, what are the easiest mistakes to make for all of us beginners?
I would say a book report ride. I don't think we'll do that at Universal. If you guys want, it's just one of those really things that we try to always expand upon whatever story it is, and to give you a new chapter or just another expansion of the world, and not necessarily try to copy what you've already done.
Let's talk about leading creative people. How do you build a team? And anybody that's looking for work, we're going to talk about the other side of that desk. How do you build a team? What are you looking for, and what are you thinking about as you select, mix, match, and combine possible team members so that they have the best chance of becoming a successful team?
I'm looking for people who own the big picture. The engineers, they tend to focus on technology, and I need engineers to be best friends with the creative folks who are trying to create a vision and own it, understand it, and feel it as passionately as the creative people do. Yeah, they need to own the fact that we're a business, and we have to be able to meet our schedules and our budgets and all of that, but I need folks who will embrace the big picture. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell a little story. When I do interviews with people, I have creative people and I have technical people on my teams, and I always want to ask the technical people creative questions. And I remember Kevin, who's sitting up front here, when I interviewed Kevin, he heads up our research team. I started asking him creative questions, and he looked at me like I had 10 heads. Like, what are you talking about? I'm an engineer. What are you doing? But I think it's incredibly, and by the way, he's incredibly creative and has brought so many ideas. I think it's incredibly important to, diversify your skill. We all have a skill that maybe we trained for, we went to school for, but when we try to find people, I call it the purple unicorn. You want somebody who's willing to go outside the box, somebody who thinks differently or thinks beyond what they're comfortable with. I think that's incredibly important because we work in such a diverse environment. You mentioned all the different disciplines. We have to be able to engage in all those different disciplines. And we also go back to, we talked about, an idea from anybody. Everybody should be able to have input into those ideas. So that diversification, stepping outside your box, I think is incredibly important.
I also look for the power of collaboration within the person. If they can see or leverage that within the things that they've done, or they understand how that feedback or wherever they've shared an experience together to create something, that's of value to them. And that is truly something that allows you to build teams quickly when you bring people together that actually thirst for, a companion or a team, or to be with others that want to make something cool.
I'm on the implementation side, so I like somebody who can wear more than one hat. You need to bring, because we're short-staffed all the time, and so, like, on Daikon, my show coordinator, I hired her because in her resume it said she was a wardrobe mistress. So she came on board and I said, guess what? You're doing wardrobe. So it's great to have people who know more than one thing, know more than one application. 3D. You know 3D, or you're kind of good at 3D, get really good at 3D because you are a hot commodity. But like I said, on the implementation side, it's Bob and I were talking about one of my coordinators, Brittany, earlier. She had started out as an intern on 904 Nintendo and under facility, and she has an architecture background. She's like, I think I want to get into creative. So then we hired her. They recommended her, so we hired her as our show coordinator. And she was like, she has all those. It was like, oh yeah, you know CAD, absolutely, come on over because we're going to have you do drawings. And then she comes to, I asked her what she really wants to do, and she says, you know what, I really want to be a show set designer. So then we just dumped all of this stuff that was like coming up late, things that weren't drawn properly. It's like, oh, guess what, you get to do this now. And so she got to build up her portfolio. It was internal only, but she's now an associate designer on a project that's in concept right now. So, she made all of these shifts and found out where she needed to go because she had this flexible background that could really help out project teams. And, she was instrumental. She was great on both Nintendo and Dragons. And so it's a little bit of diversity, especially on my side, where I always like to hire people who can wear more than one hat.
I think we all like people who tend to say, yes, I can help with that. Yeah. And when you have folks who have actively made themselves themselves into Swiss Army knives. They say that, and then they really can.
Yeah.
And we love that. Anyone in management always loves somebody who makes a problem go away. And if you have a broad array of people who can make a problem go away, you tend to love those people.
Absolutely. A related question here. How do you make, as a leader, how do you make others want to follow you? And let's start with Jody. You told a great story about 3 sisters.
Okay. That's my brother and my sister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So my parents, as I got older, my mom asked me, how did I raise you? Like, were you happy? And she said, I only have one regret. And she said, your sister, I was a middle child, so I had an older sister and a younger brother. And she said, my only regret as a parent was I raised the 3 of you exactly the same. And as I got older, and as you all got older, I realized you all need different care and feeding. And I should have communicated with each of you differently or helped parent you in different ways. Maybe one needs more attention and the other just needs that freedom. And that stuck with me as a person, as a parent, and as a leader. And I have taken that to heart in how I lead. Everybody receives information differently. Everybody communicates differently. So you have to put into it, at least it works for me, or what I try to do as a leader is everybody's different, and we have to treat people that way.
Yeah, I think one of the things you kind of hinted on a little bit was asking how we're tripping our team up, right? How am I messing up your day by giving you this feedback? Because I know that I can come in and give some pretty big changes, but I also will try to turn around and ask, well, okay, so what impact am I making with you at this particular point in time to make sure that I'm hearing and getting the feedback on what their world is like, and make sure that that is a constant ask and a feedback loop that they feel is actually an authentic way of communicating.
Now, you said, Eric, that you always try to be aware of how your impact makes others feel. That was an interesting insight to me.
Yeah, because it can be devastating at times if there's a lack of context, especially in the world in which I live in, where the concepts change on a dime. We get information pretty quickly, and the teams are small. They're nimble, but they have to change things pretty quick. And so those can be emotional twists and journeys. Because the work is authentic and emotional, we're asking them to change the direction. And that can be very disruptive to that emotional context. So we have to have an understanding of how much that impact would have on the individuals on the team.
That's a good transition to this one. How do you balance the guidelines you're giving to a team between the right amount of freedom and the right amount of limits? There are always limits, but they need freedom. How do you balance this?
So a while ago, I read a book by a submarine captain or an ex-submarine captain called Turn the Ship Around. And it's a really excellent read for anyone who wants to understand this philosophy. But I'll try and distill it into one statement that he made, which is he was suddenly reassigned to a different ship. And he was the captain of the ship, and in the Navy, the captain makes all the decisions. But he rapidly discovered that he really didn't understand this ship, and so he completely reversed his philosophy and came to the conclusion that there was no way that his one brain was going to be able to outthink the 119 brains that were working for him. So he leaned into letting people do what they do best. And that really hit home with me. So I can't say how successful I really am at this, but I try, which is that I try to surround myself with people who I think are extremely smart and skilled, and I try really hard to let them do their thing.
I want to second that book. Steve gave me that book a very long time ago, and I think it was one of the most impactful books I've ever read for my career. So I highly recommend it. Thank you for that.
As you rise, from being one of the minions to being one of the creative leaders. You go through different regimes of activity. You have to transition from a supporting role to a starring role to a coaching role. Very much like the football analogy of you are a halfback, then you are a quarterback, then suddenly you're on the coach on the sidelines, not able to get in there and knock anybody down. You're supposed to stand at the side and give some advice to some 18-year-old that you just recruited. Anyways, what's that like? What did you have to learn? And then later, what did you have to unlearn to step up to the higher role?
I think I am somewhat controlling, but I am, and so a lot of times it's learning to let go. In my head during the week, I just have to say to myself, you don't need to control this, you don't need to control this, and you let your underlings or the people who report to you sometimes make their own mistakes. And on Volcano Bay, I had an associate producer, so really confident, smart, everything, and she's like asking me, how would you do this? Here's what my plan is. And I'm like, okay, it wasn't high-risk stuff, but I said, here's what's going to happen if you institute this plan. In 6 months, these 3 things are going to happen. She's like, Katy, I just don't think that's the case. I think I can handle this. I think I can mitigate those things. I'm like, fine. Laura, you do what you need to do. 6 months later, she's standing in my door. Remember when you said 6 months ago that in 6 months, it's exactly what happened. So I let her have that experience and learn it, and she goes on to the next project with that under her belt. Again, it was low risk, didn't have any effect on her. First of all, her ego and her spirit can handle it. So we did get into Jody's point of dealing with people on their level and what you know of them. But you have to, I never want to be the only person who knows something. It's like everybody got to know something, because get hit by a bus, someone's got to pick up the pieces. They're not going to hold my spot in memoriam. So never be the only person who knows something. Always communicate. Don't wait for the end of the year evals. Communicate throughout the year anything that you can help somebody with, or coach somebody on, or build them up. I find it is always very successful. We do like a lot of empowerment over at Universal. Everybody's got a voice. No bad ideas in a charrette. But at the end of the day, it is a hierarchy, and the decisions are going to be made not by you. And so that's just a truth, and it's a structure that I actually like, and it makes things a little bit easier. Just on Dragons, we were coming to the end of DD, and we needed to move something forward, and our sweet creative director, who was always just very, let's do this as a group, and we put 3 things in front of him. He's like, what does everybody think? I'm like, nope, everybody's views, we're not doing that anymore. What do you want, A, B, or C? Where you just get to those points, and I think that if everybody understands that structure, it just makes the project a little bit easier. But getting up to that point again is just really being a little bit of a mama bear to make sure that everybody is feeling valued.
Yeah, I'll support that. I'm completely on board with the idea that everyone has a voice, and for really good reasons. That there are folks who are much more senior, who have decades of experience, like us, and that's high value. Sometimes it's also baggage, because the world moves on, and there's a new way to look at something that I know won't work because of all of my experience, yet some 18-year-old makes it work because there are a few nuanced things that are different today. So I think that should be allowed to happen. However, you have to make decisions, because otherwise you never finish. And somebody has to take responsibility for the decisions, and that's typically us, for better or worse.
Damn those 18-year-olds who prove you wrong. And by the way, you're out there. Some of you are the young people who are destined to prove one of us or all of us wrong on something, and more power to them.
Can I tell a quick story from aerospace?
Oh, yeah.
So I was in aerospace for about 15 years, and it was absolutely known that the only way to land a rocket on Earth was not the way you saw in a Bugs Bunny cartoon, which was vertical. And many years later, Elon Musk proved us all absolutely wrong, over and over again. So that's an example of what I'm talking about, where all of that experience and all of that knowledge and all of the graybeards at Lockheed telling me forget it, that's a stupid idea. Sometimes the stupid idea becomes not stupid a couple of decades later.
Very good. Film producer David Putman once said a producer's job starts with making sure that everyone on the team is making the same movie. How do you approach that?
No, I think Eric Parr should
I think that's going to be very entertaining.
Well, I think it's a structure, but once it gets into my hands, we know the path that we're going down, and with Diagon, we knew the path we were going down. Burke knew what it wanted to be from day one. We had very little issues with. We did not have we did not have a lot of executive interference, and so we were able to move a little bit more quickly. But that's because Burke, as I said, knew what it wanted to be. We'll give credit to Pierre-Olivier Vincent, who was the production designer of the films, and just gave us this beautiful thing to create. And I've just lost my train of thought of where I was going with that. Sorry.
I can tell you, technical people are far less frustrated when the creative people know what they want in the beginning, and it's the same at the end.
Yeah, look, we're developing ideas all the time. We do have structures in order to allow the teams to know who is leading the effort. They're the initial seed, and they have to start the idea and the belief, and they have to build that belief, and that's what we're talking about, belief in the same film, if it's belief in the same idea. So it's a similar kind of structure that we'll continue to use in our teams, and then hopefully that will allow the teams to expand and grow and scale with the project.
How should team members judge their creative leader, and how do they in fact do it?
Well, I think it's harsh.
I was going to say harshly.
Yes. You noticed.
Look, it comes with the territory, right? If you're going to be in the lead, you're going to have to take the heat, and you have to be the one that is the accountable leader. That is a big deal, especially when the other teams are watching you. Everyone is watching, so they want to know if you're going to say and believe, you do what you're saying. So that follow-up on your accountability is so key to being not only a creative leader, but any.
Yeah, you have to have a clear vision, or nobody's going to respect that. And that's hard. And as you're going through design or trying to figure out some new technology or whatever it might be, you might not have all the answers right away, but eventually you got to get it to a vision. And if you can't get it there, then it's hard to get people to stand behind you and trust that. So it's about that big vision.
And if you don't have it, you got to just admit that you don't have it.
Yep.
You got to say, look, we're lost. I'm lost. I got to go, figure it out.
And I've said this 1,000 times, so you guys won't be surprised. My job as an engineer is much easier, because if the stress of the beam is too high, that's math that no one can really argue with. If the experience isn't good enough, everyone argues with that.
Being a woman in leadership, how is it different now from the time you were starting out? And what advice do you have for a young woman who's just starting out today in the industry?
I know I'm not answering.
I'll go.
You can.
Okay.
I have lots to say.
So it's funny. I told Bob the story. Early in my career, as I was starting to grow, I did not want to be recognized as a woman leader. I just wanted to be recognized as a leader. And so I carried this chip on my shoulder that why do you want me to speak about that, or why should I do that thing? And over time, though, I've learned that there are environments where especially growing up over the years, there has been times that bias has been there has been challenges, or I have been looked over, and there's a lot more people who've been through way worse. And so I recognize that, as I got older and more established in my career, that this is an important conversation to have, and this is something that we do need to be leaning into and talking about more. So I now have a much different approach from I'm just a leader. I'm a proud female leader and happy to be that, and I think we should be inspiring other women. I think we should be inspiring spaces where it's not traditional. I think, when I first started creative on the technical side, there was not a lot of females at all, and I think our company's done, tremendous things to try and change that, but it's still a journey,
Yeah. I mean, starting out in Universal, I've been a little over 20 years. For the first half of that, I was almost always the only female at the table. And that has changed. It has changed. I'm not going to say a lot. I was in a meeting remotely yesterday that only one woman was at the table. So there's still things that need to be done. I do give credit to Steve's team. They recognize this as an issue, and they went out and did a whole press on getting female engineers. And now we have this group of 25 to 35-year-old female engineers who are all just excellent at what they do. And so I think that generationally, just things are changing, and which is great. I still see young women not using their voices, and I always encourage them, just speak up. What's going to happen? Who cares if somebody thinks it's a stupid question? Ask the question, and don't be afraid to speak up if you have concerns. Don't be afraid to, if you think you have a good idea, go ahead and say it. Nothing's going to happen to you if you don't, but I do feel that a lot of the young women kind of keep it low key, and you don't really need to. I don't encourage that. It's use your voice. Definitely.
Can I speak this a little bit? You're gonna weigh in on this one?
I am.
You know a cow pie when you see one.
No, I have 3 daughters, so yeah, I think I have a right to say something. So the first year this country graduated more women from university than men was the same year I graduated. But those women they're not represented in the C-suite to this day. And while there's been a lot of progress, that progress is in the 25 to 35 category. So, soon that will be over, but we still have ground to gain. And the way I view that is that's stupid, because that's half the brains in the country that I don't have access to. And why would that be smart for our business?
One of the hardest,
but just something simple. Look, we are definitely short in that aspect, but we're short in a lot of different diverse aspects, period. And we're all working towards that, especially our recruiting processes. Again, we are after the most diverse group of people, so that can be the brains that we choose from. So we don't want to miss out on any thinking or any thoughts or any ideas or any diverse ideas that we need to be authentic. So it's definitely something that we are in pursuit of.
One of the hardest things a creative leader has to do is deal with people who are quitting on their own, or sometimes you have to fire them. But you've got this duty to maintain the energy and the creative spirit of the remaining team, and out of humanity, you really want to preserve the spirit of the departing talent. How should or could a creative manager, a creative leader, manage the departure of talent? All easy questions, you know.
So everybody has strengths, and you know, if there might be a miscast, and I think that's an important story to tell. You know, we all think there might be a clear path for us, and that might not work out for us. So I think it's important to talk through that story. Everybody has a strength, it just might be a miscast. And so when you're having those hard moments as a leader, I think it's important to both help encourage that departing person to find their right path, because it exists. We all have talents, we all have strengths in some way, shape, or form. It just might not be what you think it is in that moment. And I think that's an important story to work with your team as well. You know, I think everybody should recognize that maybe this isn't the right thing for me, and I need to be doing another thing. I mean, we've seen a lot of people switch from creative to technical to creative to project management, you know, because they thought they wanted to be one thing and they realized they're just better at something else. So I think that's, you know, something that I try to lean on, is that everybody has that strength. Just need to find it.
Yeah, I love that, Jody. The assignment and this role, assignments are really a big deal for this creative studio. We always basically try to coach everyone about our teams and how fluid the teams need to be in order for them to be effective. And we try to keep that at top of mind, that we're going to probably rotate people around, depending upon, you know, what the need of the project is, and the need of the project will change pretty quickly. So maintaining an environment that's open to that change of personnel or change of roles is something that we do want to aspire to. But it doesn't take away the sting of losing someone. I've seen a few people around IAAPA this year that I said, wow, I really wish we still had kept that person. But at the time, these are the things that may have changed in their career path. And it is something that we do want to get better at. But I know that that sting you can't necessarily always get away from.
Okay, let's talk about opening day. You've spent years trying to guess how the guests are going to react emotionally to your work. Will they love it? Will they laugh at the right places? Will they be emotionally engaged? Will they tear up and get a lump in their throat just where you hoped they would? Or will they walk by and go, and not notice at all? You're sitting there watching for that emotional reaction. When you opened Epic, what emotional reactions surprised you? What were some creative ideas that worked better than imagined and that really paid off for you emotionally? And what were some creative ideas that you worked really hard on but people kind of didn't really notice them as much?
I've got one. I'm so excited you're listening to my story, Bob. So, and this is Katy, this is Blum as well. So, the Baby Night Lights. You know, that was the first of its kind for us to have these walk-around characters. And, you know, I work with the advanced technology team, and you know, these are high-risk moments, and you just don't know how people are going to receive it. We didn't know, and you know, how do you handle the limitations? And are we telling the story right? And is this the right thing to do? And we were out one day doing a rehearsal through construction, and I was really nervous about where this is going to go, and are we doing this the right way? And standing there watching the little nightlight kind of start to do its thing, and this just very large
dirty, dusty man in his construction outfit comes walking up. He was just walking by going to work. And he stopped. And he stopped and he saw the little baby nightlight. And for like 3 to 5 seconds, turned into an 8-year-old little boy. And that moment that Katy fought and said, go make that happen. And all those fears that I had of, is this the right thing to do? And are we doing, is it going to be good? And that moment just gave me everything. And I will never forget that person. I will never forget that moment because that was just an awesome experience. Yeah. We need that.
I think the first time you get tears is also we were programming Toothless and testing him with employees, and all of the vendors you can see were all standing around, and this sweet young lady just bawling, and the CTC guys were just like, so we have tears. So it's you get that when you first experience that emotional grab that somebody has a scene, experiencing something that you created. It's really rewarding. I mean, one of the most rewarding parts of actually building the things is to be there to see guests reacting to everything. It's unbelievably rewarding. I mean, it hits you right in the gut, and we did a lot of that at Epic. Oh, yeah. Well, we were going through some safety issues, and Steve and his team would not sign the paperwork to let us, so I had to resort to sending him a photo of a little boy in a wheelchair who just, the first thing he saw when he saw Toothless was, can I touch him? And so he was like this, Toothless is like that far away, and I sent a picture, and I'm just like, see, look, you're ruining this little boy's day. He was like, fine, as long as he stays with it. We had 2 circles while we were testing him. He just can't go into and so he's able to scoot out and have that moment, right? Because that's really what we wanted from that Toothless experience, is to have that hand on the nose experience, and he was able to experience it. But I had to resort to like mafia. Okay.
However, it does.
But as always, a good partner.
I tell all the engineers, our job is not to say no. Our job is to say how. So we just talk about how, and we did.
We are so lucky in this business to be able to see the results of the work we do. And you can have a bad day, and it's less hard to see that. And we also learn from that, though, because then you can learn. Maybe there's something we can do a little different, a little better as well. So.
Katy, I love your story about the sheep, about what you thought that was going to be the reaction and what it was.
Our team just loved the sheep. I mean, they were just sort of our mascot. All teams have a hard hat sticker. Ours was sheep. And so we put them, I mean, they don't do much. Even in the movies, they don't do much. I mean, that's what's so great about them. It's just like, life. Right? So we just have these sheep. They're everywhere. And like I said, they don't do much, but people love them as much as we did. And I think that just made me feel good that this silly little thing that doesn't do much is bringing just a modicum of joy to somebody, enough joy that they had to post it on the internet. So we do, I love that they love the sheep as much as we did.
I think something that surprised me, Bob, was how popular and how good the How to Train Your Dragon coaster is. It wasn't one of the ones that we were like, wow, this is going to really kill everybody, it's going to blow everybody away, because it wasn't like a super gigantic
Starfall Racers, but its connectivity to the land and how it sort of gives you this journey around Burke was so land-wide successful. It feels so wonderful, and so it just kind of emerged out and really started getting back the surveys, and like it's really one of the highest rated attractions. So I was pleasantly surprised by that.
Again, a recurring theme here when you've got the story right. All of a sudden, as you said, everything doesn't have to be an explosion. Sometimes simple things work really, really well. Sheep, who knew? Our time here is not quite up. I have one final killer surprise question for our panelists. It's something that I probably should not ask. This could be their golden opportunity to publicly embarrass themselves and humiliate themselves in front of some of their supervisors. So, but for 30 seconds, we're going to let them worry about all of this while I take care of a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, was this panel any good? And so once again, if you haven't voted, if you haven't found one of those tablets, please find one and vote for them. And remember, in the words of Al Capone, vote early and often. Now, after this panel, don't leave because our panelists are going to stay here. They've graciously agreed to stay behind to sign a few autographs or just briefly say hello, whatever you want. And although I apologize, we do not have enough for everyone, we do have a very small number, thanks to Universal, we have a very small number of limited commemorative opening day tickets. They are not valid for entry, but they are a wonderful collector's treasure. And we have a few of those, we'll give those out one per person while they last. And I again apologize that we don't have enough for it, nearly enough for everyone. There's going to be a line in the form in front of Katy and then extend that way. Use your time. And finally, before that final ultimate question, I want all of you to notice the young professionals and the show ambassadors who are ushering people in and out of these workshops and keeping all of us on track, although they are unpaid volunteers. They've fought and saved to even get here. And they're putting even more extra efforts to get them assigned to this room, to your alleged Legends panel today. The fact that they made it to this room proves that they are enterprising and worthy. Today they're just students. But among them are the future leaders of the industry, many of whom could soon be the wind beneath the wings of your organization. Talk to them. Give them your advice. Listen to their ideas. And maybe give them an internship or better still a job. You won't be surprised because among them are the Legends panelists of the future that will be sitting here someday. So let us all thank you now with a round of applause. Okay. Universal Studios management in the office, please cover your ears. Here's your last question. Great rivals inspire each other and sometimes piss each other off. Great rivalries raise the bar and the floor for everyone. Many of our friends at the other place are privately saying Epic is wonderful. It has made new levels of achievement, not just possible, but necessary in order to compete for the future. They say it's a good thing because Epic has advanced the state of the art and public expectations in a way that will both force and enable everyone to reach higher. With that in mind, what encouraging, collegial, or other thoughts do each of you have for not just our friends at the other place, but for all of us creative leaders in our industry and especially for the people in this room? Silence.
Well, I'll jump in. I think it's
think it's I'm a theme park geek. I love this business. I love everything about it. I love what every rivalry does. I love it all, and we lift each other up. Like, we should be proud to be in this industry. We should be proud for each other of what everybody accomplishes in this space. So I think that is, we need that. If we were the only one in the game, what are we compared to? Like, what are we going to drive beyond? What's going to give us the encouragement to do more? So I think it's healthy and wonderful and impactful, and it's a beautiful thing.
Totally agree. It's a necessary, I don't want to say evil, but sometimes we can feel a little evil about it. I mean, we are a very competitive company. We want to kick the so-and-so's, yeah. So we know what each other is doing, and we know all of the people within the industry, and we share those feedbacks. And I think it's a healthy exchange. Honestly, it's a great thing for our industry, period, to be at this growth point, because there were points in time where it wasn't at this, opportunistic level, and so it's just a great time to be in theme parks.
I agree with Jody. We don't want to compete with ourselves. It doesn't incentivize us in the same way as external competition does. And I don't think there's a year that's gone by in my career where we haven't usually multiple times said something equivalent to, wow, I wish we had done that, I wish we had thought of that, because of something that we saw that was developed by somebody around the world, and not just the guys down the street. It coming from all over the place. This scale or level of immersion or application of technology or just brand new idea that we didn't think of first. These things hurt us, but they also spur us on.
I would just say this. I mean, yes, they handled it.
Ladies and gentlemen, stand up and give a standing ovation to your outstanding 25 legends, Eric Parr, Jody Keller, Blum, Katy Pacitti, and also to everyone out there who worked on Epic. Thank you. And I'm Parr. We'll see you next year. Line again, say hello, starts with Katy.